Hi everybody, welcome to my stream. I'm having some trouble with my music today, so I'm going to skip that opening and I'm going to move on over to our camera capture. So, whew, man, that didn't want to focus. Um, so today, what I thought I would do is I have these. I've been working on these nutcrackers, these paint your own nutcrackers, and they always come like these. These were all drummers. I've taken it apart. They always come in things like percussionists and like people carrying swords. This one's unusual. I've never seen one like this. Or people carrying maces. You rarely ever find any that are like brass players or woodwind players or anything like that. And nutcrackers kind of look like marching band uh, members. So I thought today, I like this one could possibly be a color guard member, possibly. So I don't have any like wooden clarinets or trumpets or anything like that that I could use to make one a woodwind player or a brass player, but I have this extra drummer, and I thought maybe he could be a color guard member because it'd be pretty easy to make flags and everything. So what I did, like this particular nutcracker, I think came from Hobby Lobby. I went in there tonight just to see if they had any more. They're pretty picked over at this point, so you may not be able to find any now. Michael's might have some. I think I've seen them at Michael's. I can't remember what theirs look like, but I think all the ones that I currently have, like this is one I'm working on. Well, if I can get it over here, haven't quite finished it yet. What I try to do is I do a wash with permanent markers and alcohol. I've got some things I've got to correct on it. It gives it a nice rustic look. I'm not real crazy about the super bright and shiny nutcrackers that they have in the stores, but I really like nutcrackers, mostly because it drives my kids insane, because they hate them. Hold on, let me grab this other one. But this is another one that I just finished. Haven't gotten him put together yet. His arms aren't glued in place. I was going to give him some actual fur hair instead of the crappy job that I did with that. I'm not crazy about how his mustache turned out, but other than that, I think he turned out pretty well. But he's one that I just finished, and I've been working on this one. This one's going to be a girl, where this one's a guy. But I thought, you don't see color guard nutcrackers, why not make one? So this is the same mold as those other two. And the hardest thing about doing these on your own, or painting these that come like this, is it's hard to get into the little cracks, especially when they're glued together like these things usually come. So what I try to do first is, and I've broken this one and I really tried not to, but I take the arms off and the drum. This drum did not want to come off. Normally it will just slide off like these, and you can just slide it back on, so then you can color around it, and you can color all the way around the drum and then just stick it back on there maybe. But this one broke, so that was not very good. Luckily, I don't need the drum. So what I tried to do with this one is I tried to take my X-Acto and I tried to clean it up. And you really need to try to get any glue off that you can, especially if you're going to use the permanent marker method that I'm going to show you that I like to do. Because this glue is going to prevent your marker from absorbing into the wood. And I am not doing this the right way. You should never, ever cut toward you. That's a good way to to have to go to the emergency room. Like I did that one time. I was cutting wood, and the knife went right like that. There's a little line. The only thing that kept it from slicing my finger all the way off was that the knife hit the bone. But yeah, that was fun. I didn't have to have stitches per se because it stuck down together pretty well. But I did have to go and get a tetanus shot, and that sucks too. But you want to try to get as much of the glue off as you can. Under the arms, it's not quite as big a deal to get the glue off. The bad thing is it is nearly impossible to get the bottom of them off, or this part. If you could get this part out, it would make doing the inside of it a whole lot easier, or you can just not do the inside part. This part in here is one place where it does benefit to do it with paint and a paintbrush as opposed to a marker, but I'm going to show you how to get away with doing it. And this down inside this crown thing is a little bit hard to do, but I have not been able to get this glue off. I don't know what is going on here that this glue will not come off. I'm trying not to take off any more of the, well, there, I've got it started. Trying to not take off any more of the wood than I absolutely have to. Come on. Almost got it. But we still have this little nubbin thing, and it looks pretty bad. So what I thought about doing instead of, I'm going to still color it and make it the same color as everything else, but I'm going to make like a little scarf or wrap to go around the waist of this Nutcracker to kind of cover up this little place. You could possibly fill it in with some wood putty or something like that, but that's just a lot more work than I really want to do, especially for just something I'm going to sit on my shelf for a couple weeks and then put up. But I think I've almost got all the glue. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the glue. So, to do the method that I like to do, that I did with these, if you notice, they're pretty washed out. And that's pretty much how I like it. I like to be able to see the grain of the wood. Now, this wood is not the best wood, so there are some imperfections and some little spots that don't take the marker very well. The boots look great. I don't know if you can see that very well, but they really turned out great. But I like this kind of washed out look. And the good thing with permanent markers is you can do this pretty easily, and it doesn't really take a long time to do a whole Nutcracker like this. So for this one, I'm going to do it in reds and greens. So I'm going to use my red marker, and I'm going to use a green marker, probably that green marker and that green marker. Now, it doesn't matter what brand of marker you use. I personally prefer the Bic Market. They have a softer tip, they have a brighter color, and they wash better than Sharpies. But you could use a Sharpie if you don't have the Bic Market. I prefer these. You could also use your expensive alcohol markers, but you're possibly going to mess up the nibs of your pens if you use your expensive alcohol markers, like your Copics and things like that. So I don't recommend you do that. Now, the other thing that I use is one of these things. This is a watercolor brush. Basically what you do is you put water... Hold on. I had to change headsets tonight, and this headset wants to shut off on me. So this is basically a watercolor brush. You fill the inside with water, and then you use it in your watercolor palette. Now, what I have in here is not water. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol. you cannot use 70%. Most stores, like your average grocery store, your average pharmacy, is going to sell this 70%. You have to have at least the 90%, 90 to 91% to do this. It will not work as well if you have the 70%, because the 70% does not have enough alcohol in it to bleed the ink. And that's what we're going to do, is we are going to bleed the ink so that it soaks into the wood and acts more like a stain than anything. Now, if you don't have one of these nifty things, and I use a little pipette to fill it up with the alcohol, you could always use a little bowl and a Q-tip. You're not going to be able to get as fine a detail with the Q-tip method, but it will work. And in some situations, you may just want to take like a little syringe or a little pipette and just pour some alcohol on it if you're doing a large space. The problem you got to pay attention to when you do that, though, is the more alcohol you put on it, the more it's going to bleed. So like if you, let's say you're working on this part up here and you pour alcohol on it right here, it's likely to bleed down into the face. And the face especially is one place you don't want it to bleed. Now, if you're coloring your face, if you're making your skin tone a darker skin tone, you may not have to worry as much about the bleeding on the face. But if you're leaving your skin tone white, like I'm going to do, you do not want it to bleed onto the face. If you look on this one, not only did I accidentally mark on it, I had some bleeding right here, and I've tried to get it off, but I have not been able to completely get it off. And that's going to make it a little more difficult for me when I go to finish this one. What I'm probably going to end up doing is just putting the hair over that spot. So, one other thing I forgot to mention before I started, because I'm doing this on my thing over here, I do not have the chat open, so I cannot chat back if anybody chats with me. Not that that really ever seems to happen much, but whatever. Let me see. I might be able to open it on my phone. And just like last week, I am super, super congested, and I'm really sorry for how winded I'm going to sound, because I'm having trouble breathing through my nose. So I'm having to breathe through my mouth. Okay. Maybe I can see my chat. Okay, I can see the chat. But I may not be, I have it open, but I may not see it. So be patient with me if you put something in the chat. So I'm going to color this guy, and I'm going to color him with markers. The other thing that you need to keep in mind when you're coloring these with the markers is you want to do your lightest colors first, because that will, if you do your lighter colors first, when they bleed into the other areas, most of the time the darker colors will cover up the lighter colors. So you definitely want to try to do your lighter colors first. Like on this one, I think I'm going to do my light green first. I haven't decided. I think I'm going to do the pants, this light green color, instead of doing something up here, and maybe do the collar. I usually start on the collar on these because it's real easy to bleed. And if you notice, this is going on pretty dark. This is a fairly light, it's not light, but it's not super dark marker, but it goes on pretty dark, especially if your markers are newer and they have a lot of ink. Your wood is going to absorb a lot of ink out of your pen. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So you're going to put your lighter color on first, and then you're going to go ahead and bleed it. And then you're going to do the same with your next darkest color and then your next darkest color. You want to save all your features for last. And as far as the features go, especially on the face, there's a couple options you can go with. You can do paint, of course. I mean, you could do the whole thing in paint. I just personally don't like the way paint looks. And I also don't really like to paint. I would much rather do a marker. I'm going to color the band on his crown this lighter color too. You also could do what I have done on this other one that I just showed you a few minutes ago, is I did the white parts of the face in one of these white markers. It says metallic, but it is not metallic at all. I think I bought this either at Michael's or at Hobby Lobby. I'm not sure which one. But you can do your white sections in this, like the whites of your eyes and your teeth. Now, it does not show up real well, so you still want to try to prevent any marker from getting into those areas where you're going to put that. But it works well enough that you'll be able to see what it is that you're doing. You could also, I would assume, use like a correction pen. Use correction fluid. Correction fluid probably is going to be a little bit harder to control. Than paint or that marker. But you could use that. Or if you don't really care if it's white underneath, you could just leave it natural underneath as well and just do the outlines. So I'm going to finish this up. So there are I'm going to do those two bands with this light color. I'm still thinking I might do like one leg of the pants green and one leg of the pants red, and maybe do the arms the same way. Do one arm green and one arm red, to give it kind of a, not really a jester feel, but a multicolor, make it a little more colorful. Shoot, I didn't mean to do that. It doesn't matter. I'm going to paint these either a black or a really dark brown, so it doesn't really matter if I get it on there. But you do need to be careful. If you're going to paint the underside a different color, you want to be careful and not get the underside colored with your lighter color. Well, if you were doing a darker color, you would be more concerned than if you're doing this lighter color, because the lighter color should be able to be covered up fairly well. So we're going to color all of this. And I'm not being super particular about the directions I'm coloring, because once we stick the alcohol on it, it's all going to bleed. And most of the strokes that you make will not be visible. So it really doesn't matter. Now, doing the inside of the legs can be tricky, especially if you're trying to be extra careful and try not to, get ink in a certain place, or if you're trying not to overwrite a color that you've already gotten. That's where being able to completely take this thing apart would be really nice. You'd think that they would make these as kind of a kit, like a push together kit, where you could just build it, you paint it disassembled, and then you disassemble it, and then you don't have to fight with trying to keep from getting paint or marker or whatever you're using in places that it doesn't need to go. It makes it a lot easier to reach into the hard to reach places. Like here, underneath this one, there's a whole lot of glue, and marker does not cover up that glue. I mean, you can mark on it a little bit and it might tint it a little bit, but it is not going to do a whole lot. That's one place that paint is much better. Okay, so I think I'm also going to do the base of this. So I'm going to do all of my lighter color first. Anything that I'm going to do in my lighter color, I'm going to finish, and then I'll move on to the next color. So I want to really be careful not to go down into this part, because I'm going to paint that red, or color it red, and I don't want to mix the red and the green, because we know that makes brown, and I don't want ugly brown. I want pretty browns. But green and red brown is not a pretty brown. Now you could also do this with like watercolor if you wanted. I'd say it would work just about as well. But or maybe watercolor pencils, those might work better than just like straight up watercolor. Where you like draw on it. I'm trying to go too fast. I'm messing up. I don't want to like be on the stream like all night coloring this. I was going to start it, and I didn't get it started. I didn't have enough time. Like I said, there's a lot of glue on here as well. So what I'm hoping is if I get a lot of ink right next to that glue, that the ink will seep down into the wood underneath that glue, and it will look like I've colored it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now on this one, where her feet are like parallel, it makes it a lot harder. This one that I bought either last year or year before, the feet are kind of angled a little bit more. It was a little bit easier to color inside. But yeah, I've got to hold this in a way that you all can't really see what I'm doing here, and I'm sorry about that. And hopefully you're not seeing a whole bunch of the top of my head, which I'm guessing you probably are, because I'm leaning over this table. But anyway, do you like nutcrackers? I mean, that's the question for everybody. Do you like nutcracker? I mean, they can be kind of creepy. I admit that. But I've got a whole bunch of them. I don't have any expensive ones, mind you. All of mine are like the $20 ones you can get from Target and Michael's and places like that. I don't have any of the real expensive, the ones that actually can crack nuts. It started as a joke, and ever since then, my kids have bought me one for Christmas every year. And I say it was probably 2010, 2011 when we started it. So I have quite a few nutcrackers. Okay, so I'm going to bleed this now. When you're bleeding, two things you want to keep in mind. You don't want to hold it upright if you're bleeding your ink, because when you do that, it's going to make it drain down into the bottom. What I do is I squeeze out a little bit of ink and I just rub it around to make it look pretty. I want to make it kind of lighter. I want it to be lighter in the middle and like darker on the edges. And I really don't like for it to run down like it just did. But sometimes it's hard to prevent that the way that I'm doing this, especially considering I'm trying to do this so fast. Because when you let it run down, you see how it's kind of got a line? That's where the ink is kind of moved around. You don't want that. You want to have it smooth. Okay. Now see how even though I kept this laying this way, it still did bleed some down into the bottom of that leg. it's not going to matter too much because I am going to do the bottom of the leg in a much darker color, so it should cover it up. I just wanted to point that out, what will look like when you do that. So I'm going to do this, and I need to be even more careful because I really don't want it to bleed down into that bottom part where it would bleed into the red, or what's going to be red. So I just put some alcohol on it and I rub it in to kind of blend out the colors. It kind of works, I mean, because you basically are just like blending the color in, like a blending pen that you would get with a nice ink marker set. But that's what you're doing. You're just blending in the ink, and you're making it you're trying to get it to absorb into the wood. You don't want to have too many dark ridges if you can prevent it. The wood grain will absorb some of the ink and cause some dark ridges, but you don't want to have ridges just because the ink has built up in an area. That's really easy to do. I think that's pretty good. I'm trying to rub down this edge. See, it's already bleeding down into it. And you'll find the ink will absorb really well on the edges that are against the grain, and they won't absorb as well on the edges that are with the grain of the wood. And then I'm going to do this one. I really want to be careful here because I do not want a bunch of green bled up into the head. It is already bleeding down into the body, but that's okay because I am going to cover it up with a darker color. But I do want to try to bleed it in under the head to fill up the gap that I couldn't reach with my marker. See how there's a little bit of gap right there? I want to use just enough ink that I can bleed it into that gap, but not so much that it causes the ink to absorb up into the head. Like that. And see how much it bled? You'll find that it bleeds like this a lot on an edge that's against the grain, because this right here is cut against the grain. Now this should not bleed quite as much because it is not cut against the grain. It might bleed a little bit, and that's okay. It's kind of what I want it to do. I want it to kind of bleed up into that ridge right there a little bit. But I do not want it to bleed down into the face. Luckily, the face is a different piece, so it would take a little bit more alcohol. And sometimes if you go over it one time and then come back through a second time, you can get it to bleed just a little bit more and lighten up just a little bit more than you would have otherwise. Okay, so there's what I'm doing with my light. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do the dark next and keep going like that. But before I do that, I just wanted to show you what I did with the flags. So I made these little flags. So if you look at these guys, he had two little drumsticks in his hand. These were luckily not glued in, and I was able to just pull them out, pull the little sticks out of the hands. And I bought these little dowels. So these little dowels are the wood pile. That's what, 0.125 inches. What's that? 1/8 of an inch. Or is that? I don't know. Um, so what I did was I cut them down to 8 inches. I was doing 6 inches at first, and I felt like they were just a little bit too short. I don't know where those 6-inch ones went. There they are. I felt like it was just a little bit too short to do 6 inches. So I cut a second one and cut it as 8 inch. So what I did to make those, I took 2 bandanas, just plain bandana, and I cut out a square about like that. Let's see how big that is. That, now, we'll just measure this. So this is so it was about a 6 by 4.5 inch rectangle. So I took that and I cut out a 6 by 4.5 inch rectangle of both colors, the red and the green. And then I used my finger shears to cut it out because I didn't want to have to get out my sewing machine. And then just hand stitched it around the edge to about right here. And then flipped it, turned it inside out. And then I finished closing up the hole, stuck the dowel rod in, and then took my needle and just went up the edge right there next to the dowel. It's not the cleanest sewing job, but I was in a hurry. And then just tied it off. So the flag slips off the dowel. It's not attached. And then I just cut out a couple stars. I didn't even bother to do it with my Cricut. I just hand cut out a couple stars and ironed them on to either side. And then did the same thing for this one. Now, for this one, though, I made sure that I did it exactly opposite. The colors exactly opposite of the first one. But I just did that with a pair of bandanas, one green and one blue. I mean, one green and one red. And just used a needle and thread to sew it up. It took me maybe 10 minutes to do it. And then to make the little skirt, it's going to be kind of like a tie, a wrap. I just cut a little scalloped edge off the edge of it. So I cut it all along the sewn edge of the bandana so that I didn't have to hem it. And I used my pinking shears and, left the ragged edge so that I didn't have to hem that either. And so when we get done, I'm just going to kind of like tie it on like that so that it kind of looks like a little like tied skirt or something. I might decorate it later, but that's just basically what we're doing. So back to coloring this thing. So, I said I was going to do one of the arms green. So I'm going to do this arm green because it's the arm opposite of the leg. Now this one, the other two that I've done did not have nearly as much glue on them as this one does. This one has an unusual amount of glue. Like that, it has got a whole lot of glue. And I am not doing a very good job coloring. Sorry if you're very anal about your coloring. I'm probably making you very angry the way I'm doing this. Okay. You can't really get down into that crack very well with a permanent marker. Do the best you can, and then you're going to use your alcohol to kind of make it seep down in there. So you want to get as much ink around it as you can so that you have some ink there to make seep. So I'm not coloring this top edge here. what I've been doing with the others, well, I haven't done it with the blue one yet because I haven't gotten that far, but most of the metallic markers that you can buy, most of the metallic permanent markers, they will write over top of anything. So even if you've bled the whole thing, the ink in the metallic marker will cover it all up. So that's what I've been doing. I'm not really doing a whole lot towards making sure I don't mess up around these little rings here, because I know I'm going to go over them with a metallic marker, and you're not going to be able to tell because the metallic marker is just going to completely cover it all up. You will get marker on your hands, especially when you're bleeding the ink. I guess if you are just absolutely opposed to having marker on your hands, you can wear gloves, but I think that's kind of useless because it's not like it's hard to get off. Just take some alcohol and rub it on your hands and the marker will come off. Okay, so this one's green now. Where is my X-Acto knife? Because it needs to have a lid. And it needs to be put away. Now I have this plastic thing here because I don't mind getting marker on my hands, but I don't want marker on my countertop. See, if you put enough ink, there's glue there, it's not going to absorb. So there's not a whole lot I can do. I can probably, if I have, which I think I do, like a green metallic marker, I can probably go over it with that green metallic marker and make it not quite as visible that I didn't get any ink down in there. But it's okay. It's not like I'm entering this in any kind of competition. I'm doing it for myself. Okay, I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. That looks like it's wood grain, even though it's kind of smushy. So, if you notice, my marker is green. If you take it and you rub it on a paper towel or the back of your hand, you can get that ink out. Because if you don't, and you go on to a different color, you're going to end up mixing those two colors. And I do not want to do that. So now I'm going to do the dark green. I kind of like the way that ink bled. I might want to touch it up a little bit right there. So I don't think I'm going to do anything more up there. So I think I'm just going to take this dark green and color the lower half of the shirt. Now, normally what I would do with this color, with whatever color I put on this, is I would also do the inside. But for the purpose of this stream, I am not going to go the route of going ahead and filling in everything on the inside. I will probably do that later, because that takes a lot of time. That's probably the most time-consuming thing to do, is filling in the inside. And it's tedious, and I don't really like to do it. The only reason I do it is because it makes me angry that it's not done. It doesn't look good. But you don't have to do it if you don't want to. It's completely up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and color all of this in. I would also normally color this back lever, but I'm not going to. And I am not being careful about this belt because I know that I'm going to color that belt metallic color or black. I probably will color it black. So if it bleeds down into that, I don't care. It's not going to hurt anything. But I want to get a lot of ink on it because I want it to be obviously darker than that ridge around the neck that I did. You will use a lot of ink. I will say that. So if your markers are fairly old or don't have a lot of ink in them, you could easily run out of ink. But I've got a whole box of them over there. I think I have 2 or 3 sets of these markers. They're my favorite marker. They're cheap. You can use them for a lot of things. The color's good. The coverage is good. Sure, you can't get them in a lot of colors, but you can water them down with alcohol and make different colors. You just have to use a paintbrush to do it. Anyone who's anal retentive probably hates how I'm coloring. I sometimes, I'm one of those people that I get distracted very easily, and coloring is no exception. I'll color this. Oh wait, I need to color that. Don't finish the first part that I'm coloring. The only reason I'm going around that edge right there is not so that I don't get the marker on the belt. It's so that I can fill in that edge, because that edge it's a deep ridge and it's easy to miss if you don't go over it. Intentionally fill it in. So I'm not going to color everything that I would normally color on this one at the moment. Like normally I would go ahead and do this bottom part. Oh man, I have bled the ink onto that leg. Maybe I should clean up my hands. That's pretty good. Better than it was. Oh, what was I saying? Yeah, I'm not going to do this underside right now, just because it takes so long to do this, and it's not really necessary to show you kind of what the finished product would look like. This is going to be hard to color because it's so jagged, where it kind of broke off and I couldn't get it to sand down or cut down. You could probably take some sandpaper to it and make it a little smoother, or maybe if you get one of these and you can get it to come off a little more cleanly. I'm using a lot of ink. Trying not to hover over top of it. So I'm sure y'all don't want to see my head. Okay. There's that part. Now, since the that's probably the only thing I'm going to color that color. I'm going to go ahead and bleed it. Right here, I'm going to try to use the color, try to bleed it into that hole. Now this part we probably won't see when we're completely done because it's going to be covered by that wrap. See, that gives it a really nice emerald color where it bleeds it out in the middle and it leaves it darker on the edges. Gives it some nice contrast. But you can see the ink moving around. I mean, you may not be able to see it in the video because you really do need to be a little bit closer to it. But when you're doing this on your own, you can really tell where the ink is when you're moving it around. Like I can see I've got a lot of ink up there. I'm trying to get the ink out of the middle and push it up towards the edges because that's where I want it to be. I want it to be out of the middle and towards the edges. And I am using a lot of alcohol to do this because you pretty much have to keep it saturated to make the ink continue to move around. And if you look underneath, look how much it's bled in. Now, as much as I've really see how much of the belt it's bled, I've got to be much more careful doing this part. So I do not want to go up too far. I mean, I want to go lightly up high, but I don't want to go real high with a lot of alcohol because that's going to bleed this dark green up into that light green, and I don't want that to happen. I want to have just a little bit of alcohol to make it move around just a little bit, but I don't want to bleed it up there. So it takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of caution because I don't want to bleed that. Okay, so that's kind of the way I want it to look. I am getting this everywhere. So I'm using a lot more ink on this one than I did with any of the other ones that I've done, just because this green is really, really pretty when you bleed it. Or at least I think it's pretty. I'm very partial to green. Green's my favorite color. So I really like the way it does. But you can also, when you get done with it, you can use like a sealer or something, and give it a nice shine. And the shine that you're seeing when the ink is wet, like when I'm doing this alcohol rubbing alcohol stuff, it will give it that same nice shine afterwards. Okay, so now that I've done that, I definitely want to make sure I get all the ink out of my brush because I do not want to get green in my brush. Now notice I've used about half of a brush of alcohol. And I've only done about half of our dude here. Now on this red, the red on the flag is very bright, but I would I would almost prefer the red to be a little more subdued than super, super bright. But I don't know how that's going to work. So I'm going to start with the hat, because I am going to make the hat, the inside of the crown, red. Now, if you notice, it's got this edge that's very hard to get down in there. But if you do the best you can and get as much of it as you can, typically you can get your alcohol brush to move the ink down into the areas that you couldn't reach. That doesn't matter. I'm going to paint it gold anyway. Yeah, I don't really care if I get it on this crown part, because the crown is going to be gold. Or if I get it on this little ball, because the little ball is going to be gold. I just want to get enough red ink on it that I can bleed it down into the places that I can't reach. And for some reason, this one, the little ball inside the crown, is really, really smooth. So I'm a little concerned that it won't absorb the ink very well. Because the smoother it is, the harder it is usually to get the ink to absorb. So I'm a little concerned. The other ones that I've done have not been nearly this smooth. Okay, so I'm just taking my marker, filling it in as much as I can, reaching down as far down into there as I can, and coloring it in. Now I'm going to go ahead and see how that works out, because I may have to put more ink on that. So I'm going to take my ink and I'm going to bleed that down into the areas that I can't reach. It does okay. I was afraid it wouldn't do. I mean, it's not great. I'm a little afraid to do a whole lot up here, because I'm afraid it's just going to bleed off. The good thing is the brush will reach down in there a little farther than your pen will. So you can get it down in there a little farther. There. Looks a lot better. I mean, it's not perfect, but it looks a lot better. And you could do it more. You could add more. If you put the marker on it while the alcohol is wet, it will work just as well as just doing it on dry. But I kind of like the way that looks, so I'm just going to leave it. My hands are going to be so pretty. Okay, so now on his body, the only other thing that I need to paint red is this leg, and then this other arm. And then I need to paint his belt and his boots and his face. Or her face. This is a girl. We're going to do a girl. So I think instead of painting or markering, drawing on the hair, I am going to just use yarn. There are ways you could take like an acrylic yarn. It needs to be a fairly good acrylic yarn. It can't be like the cheap stuff you get from the Dollar Tree. And you can use a comb or a slicker brush, like your dog's slicker brush, and you can straighten it out and make kind of like a baby doll or doll hair. I'm not doing that. It takes time, and I don't have that kind of time. But it is possible to do it. and it makes a really nice silky, especially if you take it and you can straighten it just a little bit with a flat iron, and it makes a really nice silky hair. But it does take a lot of work to do. I started to do it this afternoon for this blue Nutcracker that I've been working on, and after brushing the hair for 5 minutes, I decided it was taking too long and it wasn't worth the effort. So I think what I'm going to do on that one is I'm going to draw the hair on and just put a bun made out of yarn in the back of the head. Now on this one, what I was thinking about doing is pigtail braids on either side, gluing them on in the back of the head, and just put them on like that. I'll probably want to go ahead and color the head just a little bit in case some of the yarn moves around. You don't just see blank scalp. But okay, so there's the leg. Let's do the arm. I typically do the hands the same color that I do the boots, like they're wearing gloves. So like on this one, the hands are the dark brown that the boots are. I haven't done the hands on the other one yet because I haven't gotten that far. But I've got a bunch of little ones that I did a couple years ago that I'm not like these over like this set right here. I've got a couple of these. Oops. That I did that way. I've actually had some of these Nutcrackers for a couple years, having intended on coloring them for a couple years and never got around to it. I've got a reindeer one as well. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's a lot of all one color, and I don't know if I want to fight with that. I might just take it and spray paint it. Actually, I think I've got some wood stain. I might just wood stain it and then paint the features on it and be done with it, because it's pretty much just all brown, unless I wanted to do like a crazy reindeer, like I don't know, I think I've got some all red spray paint. I can make it red. But yeah, I haven't done that one either. Thought it was time to get these done. And I was shocked. I mentioned I went to Hobby Lobby tonight. I went to Hobby Lobby and I was looking for their Nutcrackers because I was looking to see if they had one I was thinking I saw one that had like a flag or something, but I couldn't remember if I dreamt that or if they actually did. And I was completely shocked. I mean, yeah, I know it's almost Christmas, but they only had 5 Nutcrackers left, and 3 of them were broken. So I guess everybody, I mean, and they had like, you normally like their Christmas stuff is like 10, 12 aisles, and there were only like 4 aisles of Christmas stuff. I guess everybody's already bought it all. I didn't realize that they sold out of that stuff like that. Or maybe everybody's in a much a better mood to buy stuff this year than they have been in the past. Or maybe like last year was where COVID was so bad and everybody was afraid they were going to lose their jobs. They didn't buy anything. I don't know. But I never had noticed in previous years them, being that bare, their shelves being that bare until at least the week of Christmas. It was weird. Maybe I just don't go in there enough to know. I don't know. So this red doesn't really have to be blended a whole lot because I don't want it to be too dull. I don't want it to soak in too awful much. I want it to soak in a little because I want it to have that kind of to be able to see the wood grains and stuff. But I don't want it to be super soaked in because I want it to be pretty bright. And if you I didn't mean to do that. And if you put too much ink on it, it's not going to be bright. I mean, if you put too much alcohol on it, it's not going to be bright. Okay, so that's really all I have to do with red. Let's clean out my brush. Where did I put that lid? There it is. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is the belt. I'm going to go ahead and do it in black. That means I'm also doing the hands in black. This black feels like it might be about out of ink. It's got a really dull tip. Yes, I think this black is not good enough. Luckily, I have more. And if this one runs out of ink, I've got a Sharpie. I'd rather not use the Sharpie, but in a pinch, I will. And you'll see how that is a really deep edge there, so you pretty much have to bleed that into that edge, because there's no way that my marker tip is going to reach down in there. I mean, you probably could get it with a fine tipped marker, but that'd take a really long time, and I don't know that it's worth it. And like I said, it doesn't matter if I get black on this other edge. I'm going to cover it up with a metallic ink. You're not going to be able to tell. I am not going to paint or color the flagpoles. I am going to leave them natural. So the flagpoles are, of course, going to go through this hole. So I need to try to get that hole covered as best I can. What time is it? 9:30. So I've been doing this for an hour. These little round balls are hard to color. I don't like coloring little round things. Okay, we're almost there. I still haven't finished my Christmas shopping. I hope you all have. Because, man, it's been something else. And Christmas just really snuck up on me this year. I usually am really good about getting my Christmas shopping done early, but not this year. I did a crappy job of getting it. Well, it also doesn't help that the people that I need to buy for won't tell me what they want or want things that you can't buy. Like my son wants a new graphics card. Those are almost impossible to find. And my daughter can't tell me anything that she wants. She says love. And I said, I'd give you that anyway. Okay. So I'm not making it, this edge is not going to be, inside edge is not going to be, you probably can't see what I'm doing. It's not going to be super, super black because it's going to be hard for me to get that black down in there. And black pretty much just turns gray. But it's going to be at least gray down in that edge. I feel like I've got plenty of ink or alcohol. It just doesn't seem like it's coming out. So that's pretty much as good as I'm going to be able to get that right there. Now, there is another way I could go about doing this. So, if you have a plastic surface, this one may not work very well because it's got so many cuts in it, but we'll try it. So you can put your marker on your plastic surface. You could also use like a ceramic surface or something. Put your alcohol down in it, and you can bring it up onto your pen like that and put it in. Now with the black, it's not going to make that much of a difference. It's still going to be gray. But if you're doing if you wanted to do like a light color, or if you needed a gray and you didn't have a gray marker, you could easily do it this way. So that's just another thing you can do with this. Okay, I'm just going to leave it in there. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use it again. No, not red. Black. Let's color the belt. I probably will not bleed the belt. Because I really don't know that I want... If I bleed the belt, it's going to show the green underneath. So I don't believe that the belt needs to be bled. So I'm just going to color it. I'm not going to go down under that edge because the green under that edge is fine. I don't care that it's green under the edge. I just want the top of the belt itself to be black. Somebody is messaging me. Okay, so there's my belt. And now I'm going to do the boots. The boots are a pain in the butt. Because you got to get on the inside of these, and you got to get on the inside of this without getting on the grass. Who is messaging me? So I'm going to start as close to the grass as I can, because that's where I'm most likely going to mess up, is along the grass line. So I don't want to have too much of the grass, but if it looks like like he's standing in the grass, that's fine. And this marker is starting to run out of ink. Great. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change markers. I wonder if I've got another one. It's not super out of ink, but it's out of ink enough that it's making it hard. Ooh, there's another one. That one's good. Ah, I got it on the grass. That's exactly what I was trying not to do. Oh well, there's nothing I can do about that now. Okay. These inside parts are really hard to do without getting it on the grass. Trying to hold it so that you all can see it and I can also see it myself, and that's hard to do. And there's a big wad of glue there. Just like everything else, there's parts of it that are going to be hard to get in. You're going to probably have to try to bleed the ink into the holes because the marker doesn't fit. Oh, I forgot I was going to do that bottom part with the red. The hardest part is this inside, right here, because you don't want to get it like I just did on the inside of the leg, but you got to get all these little cracks, and these little cracks are not easy to do. I'm just messing up all over the place. I'm also rushing, and that's probably one reason why it's happening so much. You don't do your best work when you're rushing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the back of this one since I'm here. To this, but not so close that I would get it on it. can't get that crack. I might be able to get it with a fine tip marker. I can try that in a minute. Okay, get the inside of this one. Now with this black, if you want to make it stay vibrant black, and you don't want it to bleeding the black is going to make it very gray. I mean, not very gray, but it's going to be much more noticeable on the black that it's bled than if you do other colors. So if you're really wanting it to be this nice vibrant black, I would recommend that you just do a really good coloring job and you don't bleed it. But if you're okay with it being kind of a really dark gray with light gray inside or light gray highlights, bleed it. I'm still debating whether or not I want to bleed these boots or if I want to leave them really dark, because they will not be super, super dark if I bleed them. But if I bleed them, I can fill in all these holes that I can't get a little bit easier. Okay, this is almost done. So then, once I do this, the only other things that are really left, well, besides this base, are the mouth and the facial features, and then the gold highlights. I am not going to go ahead and do the gold well, I can go ahead and do the crown, but I'm not going to do any of the highlights on the body. Because I am going to eventually finish all of this, so I'm probably not going to put the mouth or do any of the features, the gold features on the body. What I'll do is I'll do what's on the top part of the face, the eyes, the nose, the top teeth, and the top lip, but I probably will not do the bottom lip and the teeth that go here, because I don't want to risk messing them up when I go to fill this in right here, and I only want to have to do them once. So I will show you what I would normally do for that, but I'm not going to finish it because I don't want to be on. I don't want to, take all of the night doing this one, but I want to give you an idea of what to do in case you want to do one like this. Oh, my nose is itching. That is really hard to reach right there. It's really hard to see. Trying to not. Oh, there's a big hunk of glue. Okay. So I'm going to fill the pants, oh man, my nose is really itching. Fill the glue in the way I showed you with picking up the ink on the brush. So I'm putting down a lot of ink. Probably should have used one of those ink pens that are running out. I'm not going to use a lot of alcohol though, because I want it to be as dark as I can. And I'm going to fill in those holes with this brush. And it covers pretty well when you do that, especially when you don't put a lot of ink or put a lot of alcohol in it, because it leaves it pretty intense. You gotta have enough alcohol though to pick it up. It's trying to bleed on me there. I don't want it to do that. So I'm just trying to tap it into those little crevices if I can reach them. I can't really reach. Well, maybe I can. I'm at least going to knock down the brightness of the wood with some gray. It may not be black, but it'll at least be gray. There, that's about as good as I can get it. Now, I could touch this up just a little bit. See how it kind of is kind of gray, just kind of really light. Might be able to darken it a little bit with this. I think it's just absorbing it. Okay, that's about as good as I can get it. Now I want to clean this up because I don't want it to be black. Drop some ink in there, or some alcohol in there, and clean that up. Okay, so pretty much, well, right there's some that could be touched up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the green. Do the same thing that I did with the black with the green. Put down some green ink. Pick it up with the brush. And lightly fill it in right there. It's not going to be super dark, but it's going to be better than what it was. There we go. So the next thing I'm going to do, oh, I need to finish that base. We're going to do this real quick. If you hold the marker kind of flat and just run it along that top edge, you should be able to get a nice crisp line without bleeding over the edge. This marker feels like it's about to run out of ink as well. It is not covering very well. And on these sides that are against the grain, it is not going to cover well at all. I don't think it's going to cover any better than that. I got that big green line right in the middle of it. Luckily it's in the back. Okay, so I am making this one a female. I know that color guard can be guys, but I don't have very many female Nutcrackers, and I thought a color guard would be a good one to do. Female, just like I'm doing a female drummer. So, for the facial features, now I'm not going to bleed that at all because it didn't do real well, and I'm afraid if I try to bleed it, it's going to look bad. Oh, I didn't put the lid on that. I'm going to do the crown first because I don't know how I'm going to do the inside of that crown. Because there's no way that I can get my marker down in there, and the gold ink does not work the same way as the colored ink in that I can't use my alcohol and bleed it down in there. So I think I'm just going to leave the inside of that natural. So I'm coloring this. So if you notice as I color this, all those little red spots, like right there, those little red spots get covered up. You don't have to worry about, oh, I am not holding it to where you can see it. See, it's pretty much covered up now. And see how there's all of this that bled through? Now, because this is, the grain is exposed here, this is not going to look gold on this edge. It's going to kind of have a weird color, but it's going to cover up all of these impurities that we have here. Ooh, hopefully I don't bleed this marker dry with this, because I still have several other things I need to do with this marker. Although I think I have another one. I think I have a Sharpie one. The Sharpie ones are pretty good for the gold and the silver and the bronze. I just prefer Bic. And the Bics don't smell as bad as the Sharpies do. Sharpies stink. Yeah, it doesn't look great. I might actually have to get some gold paint and go over this, because the way this wood is just kind of soaking it all up, and it's not really covering the way I want it to. And it feels like my marker is about out of ink. I need to at least get this part of the crown finished, because if I change markers midway, it's going to look weird, because I do not believe I have another one of this brand of marker. I'm not even sure where I got this one. Yeah, this marker's done. It is so done. Okay, let me see if I can find another marker. What is that? That is bronze. That's brown. That's metallic brown. I believe I have one over here. Look in the other box. I've got a Sharpie. Brand new one too. Okay, Sharpie. So we're just going to color this inside edge of the crown. I'm not going to color inside, but just this inside edge. And I realize that you can't see it. I didn't really dress or prepare to actually be on camera like I feel like I probably am. I can't see my screen, but I'm assuming that I'm actually on the camera. Oh well. I am by no means trying to impress any of you all with my looks. Okay. There we go. I mean, I could go over this a little bit. It would make it a little more gold. I think I'm just going to do like the very front. Give it slightly more of a gold tinge. And be done. If I really need it to be gold, I will get some paint. So what I usually do is I've been doing a gold ring around this band of the boot, like this. And see how well that gold marker covers up that black. So as long as you're not going against the grain of the wood, or it's not got an open porous edge to it, the gold really works really well, and most of the other metallics as well. I know Bic has a whole rainbow of metallics that you can buy. I am not so sure that Sharpie does. I think Sharpie you can just get gold, silver, and bronze. But I have like a whole set of metallic Bics. Some of them are dried out where I've used them so much, but it's probably time to get a new set. So I am not trying to be super detailed with this, and it's hard to do the way that I'm holding this, but that's what I'm going for, is just, a little accent on the boot. Now I will do some accent stuff to the front of here as well, but not until I finish coloring the inside of the mouth. So the next thing I'm going to do is going to color the cuff of the sleeves and the shoulder of the sleeves in this gold. And then I'll show you how I would draw the face, and we'll kind of put it all together. You can see kind of what it's going to look like, at least until I get the rest of the detail stuff done. And I'll try to get it all completely done tomorrow so that I can post it and you all can check out my Instagram page and see it tomorrow. Like I said, I'm really just doing this for myself, but if there's somebody out there who really, really wants it, let me know and we'll work out a price. I will say it's probably not going to be super cheap because considering how much these little things cost, they're $10 a piece, so it's a minimum of $10. And then the time it takes, I value my time. Okay. The tops of the arms also have this little nubbin thing that it's kind of annoying. It's hard to cover, but we do the best we can. And I should have covered it last so that I can reach or hold on to it easier, but I didn't. See how well that gold covers up that red? Isn't that nice? Now the gold does take a little bit longer to dry, so you got to be a little bit more careful about that. But there's one arm completely done. It looks classy. These would be a whole lot easier to do if they were, I know I've already mentioned this before, but it would be a whole lot easier to do these if they were disassembled. I mean, it would be so much easier. I mean, you could tape it off, you wouldn't have to go around it. It would just be so much nicer if these came disassembled and you could just paint them disassembled and then assemble them. But no, they don't. Now this gold doesn't want to cover this black for some reason. Well, I mean, it's covering it, but it's not covering it as well as I would like for it to do. You know, that might be why my nose is stopped up, because I've been playing with permanent markers all day. Well, not all day, but a bit today. It didn't start bothering me until about 6 o'clock. Okay, so there's the arms. I'm going to go ahead and put the flags inside the arms. So this one goes here. So the way these flags are going to work, because of the way that the arms were drilled out, The flags are going to crisscross on the front of the body. Like that. Now I'm going to have to take them off in order to finish the face, but I just wanted to see what it's going to look like. So we got 2 flags. I guess if I had done them a little differently, I was thinking they would be like the little swing flags, but they're really kind of big for swing flags. I don't think it looks too bad. It's got 2 little flags. But I can't do the face while the flags are in its hands. So let's put him down, or her down. Face. I'm going to use peach, not pink. So I'm going to outline the mouth. That's the outline of the mouth. Although I think it needs to come over just a little bit more. Kind of like that. If I give her like little bow tie lips. She's got big lips. But that's okay. Oh, and I need to take this. I'm going to put some of this down here. We're going to cover up most of those lips because I just needed to draw out the edge. We're going to get some of this peach on our brush. We're going to give her a little bit of a peach tinge to her nose. It won't be super obvious on the sides, but it should be somewhat noticeable on the front. Kind of like that. Because her lips kind of look like a 70s porn star stash, I am going to go over them with pink. I don't want them to be red. I just want them to be pink. Just like that. Now, I'm going to take my white pen, and cover up a good portion of that. And if you see, my white pen does not do a great job. There's probably better ones out there than this one. If I do multiple layers, it does better. But I want a big set of teeth and not nearly as big lips. So if I do it in layers, so I'm going to do this one layer. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. While I'm letting that sit, I'm going to do the eyes. So the eyes, typically on a Nutcracker, are a straight line on the bottom, and then like a little half circle on top. And like I said, with this pen, it doesn't show up a whole lot, but we will be outlining the eyes, so that's fine. So there's one eye. The challenge is getting them even. There's the other eye. And so once this dries, you can put the eyeball in there over top of it, and it won't bleed. You know how I said that I prefer Bics to Sharpies? These Sharpies do not bleed as bad. So when you're doing the little fine details, I found it actually better to use a Sharpie than to use a Bic. I don't know. It must just be that the Bics put down more ink than the Sharpies do. But yeah, when I'm doing the little fine details, I am going to use the Sharpie and not the Bic. Where's the lid to my marker? So it's not perfect by any means, but it's good enough. The one exception to the fine details using the Sharpie instead of the Bic is the teeth, because I need the teeth to be fairly wide. I don't want them to be, I want the line to be fairly wide, and the Sharpie doesn't do as well with that. So I'm using the Bic for this part, for just drawing in the teeth. Start with the middle one. Start with the middle crack. That way it lines up better. Okay, so I am drawing maybe. I want to outline the teeth. Like that. I might actually get a Sharpie fine liner. I think I've got a pink one. Take this Sharpie fine liner and go over the outside. Well, that doesn't show up. So maybe brown. Where is my brown? Just to go over the edges of her lips. To give them a little definition. Then a Sharpie black. Where is my Sharpie black? That's navy blue. Maybe using my Bic because I don't see my... Here it is. Oh, I need to draw the inside of her eyes. I'm going to make them green. Nope, not that green. This green. So I'm just drawing a circle in the very center. Then drawing a circle in the very center over here. And trying to get them even. Then take my Sharpie. I'm going to outline the eye. Maybe. My Sharpie doesn't act like it wants to write. It doesn't. So I guess I'm using my Bic. I'm just trying to be very careful and trying to not mess this up. Like I just did. I messed that up. Put pupil in the center. I can get around this mess up by giving her eyelashes. Okay. She's got a big mouth. And I'm going to give her eyebrows. Okay, she's not the prettiest, but she is what she is. So what I'm going to do for her hair. Okay, so her mouth is going to go down onto that part as well when I get done. But what I'm going to do for hair is I have this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut little pieces like this and just glue them starting here all the way around her head to give her hair. I do not have my hot glue gun plugged up, so I need to do that. While it's getting warmed up, I'll cut the hair. If I can get it to plug into this outlet. I don't know. This is not the best glue gun. It only works sometimes. We'll see if it works today. So the hair, I'm going to cut it extra long because I want to have plenty of room to braid it. I'm going to cut it like that. So I'm going to cut pieces this length, which is it's more than 15 inches. 15, it's about 18 inches. And like I said before, you can take this hair or this yarn, this type of yarn, and you can brush it and get basically a really soft, fluffy hair that you could use, but it takes forever. And I don't think it's worth the effort. I tried to find some sort of baby doll hair at Hobby Lobby, and I don't know if they just don't carry it anymore, or if I was looking in the wrong place. I have some hair from when I was customizing My Little Ponies many years ago, but I didn't want to dig it out. And it's all like pink and purple and green probably would have worked, but that's really super fine stuff, and it would have taken a long time too. It really has to be sewn in. And this shouldn't take too long. The longest part of it probably will be cutting it and gluing it on, and then braiding it shouldn't be too hard. I really don't know how much of it I need is the thing. Until I actually get started with it. So I'm just going to cut a bunch while my glue gun does its thing. Who knows how long it will take for this thing to warm up. Oh, I was going to color the back of the head. I guess I could do that as well while I'm waiting on the glue gun to warm up. This might be enough. So if I color the back of the head, probably want to use like a light brown, although I think any of the browns that I have are going to be pretty dark on this wood. So if we start here, I guess I don't really even need to color it completely, just kind of draw in what looks like hair. Sounds like my cat wants in. He's probably cold because it's pretty cold outside. Where is he? He's inside. He just wants in my office. Just trying to give it a little color under the hair so that if the hair moves a little bit, there's something there. I'm not going for something super fancy. Just something somewhat functional. Okay, now the hair. Boy, she's got big lips. I drew her lips too big. It's too late now. So, use some glue. Just going to put a couple little pieces of glue. Put some hair. Try not to get my fingers in it. It might work better if I put the glue on the hair and stick the hair down. And what I could do, because I mean the glue is kind of visible in some spots, I could take like a ribbon or something and tie it as well. I don't think this is enough yarn. I think it's going to take more. Thankfully, this is not a high heat gun. I would be in pain. This might be enough. It may not be a high heat gun, but when you get it just stuck to your finger, it still hurts. I think I cut just enough. Yep, that was luck. Ow! I swear. There we go. Okay, she has hair. She has lots of hair. I'm wondering if I shouldn't put a couple strands down the back of her neck, though, so that when I split her hair into the braid, it's less noticeable. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so in the back of her head, right down the middle, I'm going to put some extra strands, and I'm going to alternate them, like this one going this way, and this one going this way. Trying to use as little glue as I possibly can. But I am still making a huge mess. blisters on my fingers. Stay. Have any more cut? I think that was the last piece. Cut one more. That's kind of to make her have a part in the back, so that when I pull the hair to the sides like this into the little pigtails, the back of her hair doesn't look so weird. It doesn't look like she's like bald in the back. She actually has a part. So that's what's going to happen. I may need to actually put a few more strands up here in the front. I think she needs a few more strands up in the front. And I probably will like take a small ribbon and add to the bottom of that thing. But I think that's where I'm going to stop tonight. And tomorrow, watch my Instagram. That's Marching Band-imals. Or my Facebook, whichever one you want to watch. And I'll post a picture of what she looks like in the end. I may do something with her face to try to fix the huge lips she has. She's had too many injections in her lips. But just keep watching and I'll show you what we get. But anyway, thanks for watching. For everybody who has stuck through. Like I said at the beginning, I'm Amy from Marching Band-imals. You can visit our shop, which is shop.marchingbandimals.com. We have some neat little merchandise. We have a marching band card game, which is our Marching Band-imals game. We have a fight song game. We have I just drew a blank. A poker deck, which is marching band themed. We have lots of stickers. We have Christmas cards. Check us out. If you want to get your order before Christmas, you probably need to be placing your order before the end of the week. But right now, if you order, I think it's $25 or more, you can get free standard shipping as well in the U.S. But check us out. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, although I rarely ever post to Twitter because Twitter just sucks. That's Marching Band-imals on Facebook and Instagram, and Band-imals on Twitter. But anyway, I will stream again. Actually, I will not be streaming next week because my daughter has a chorus concert on Tuesday, and I'm not sure if there's any other day of the week that I will be able to stream. But check us out later at our next stream, which hopefully will be the week after. That's on Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern. So, but anyway, I hope you all have a great night, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.